wanted to give him a biblical name, Mark. And really, it was Billy Mark, but we couldn't call him Billy with his surname Ballosingh. So it was Mark William, and the short for William is Bill. And Stuart was the name of an evangelist. And then it was, I think, Welsh or Scottish name. So the name was coined Mark William Stuart. Your grandfather wanted to name him Billy after Billy Graham, because that was his preaching idol. My sisters, his aunts, and my mother took care of him very early.
After all, he was named after the best evangelist, Billy Graham. You know, his name was William, but they called him Billy. And he preached just like Billy and Billy Graham.
And I remember the days when we used to take his dad used to take us up with him to the beach for the boys and so. And remember, we used to play with him like a beach ball, from hand to hand.
Uncle Hollywood, put him and say, well, Bill, come and preach. And they had a piano stool, which is still there. And they'll put a little New Testament in his hand. And he was small like Aidan. And he would preach up a storm, and always preaching about John the Baptist and repentance, and preaching on fire for God.
One thing we did was go to church. And then we went to church. So growing up, I think one reason they called Billy Billy was after Billy Graham. So the one thing we knew was church. Billy used to stand as a little boy, and we're all very, very young, behind the piano stool and had service with the adults, with the kids. And he would preach fiery sermons of I don't know what. And we would all have to stand in line, and we'd all have to put up our hands after the service as in an altar call. And Billy would require that we speak in tongues, and we would shake when he prayed for us and fall to the ground.
You are so busted, Billy. Because what the other sisters wouldn't say, I will. This is the Billy Mark. Everybody had an idea, they think they knew, they really didn't. How would I describe Billy Mark?
I would get on the nerves, I would provoke them, I would wait till they build a little dolly house and pass and knock it down. I would, pelt down a gymnast over their head and have them bowling and running and all that kind of thing, Typical boy, I suppose, and I would be like that. Yeah, I was very provoking to the girls because I grew up in a house with only girls. I didn't have any brothers. And the kind of stuff I wanted to do was boy stuff.
Billy Mark was a clever fiend. Kind of like those Bond villains that always got away. And bear with me, I will tell you why. Billy was the big brother, referred to as the Barutton of the parents. And he pretty much got away with everything. So we had an instant love-hate relationship. He was clever, such that he can do anything, stupid stuff, and still get away with it.
Billy would con us out of all our snacks, and then say he would share his snacks, put us to sit in a row, and when we thought he would be sharing it, and this would happen time and time again, he would sit in front of us and eat his entire chocolate and drink his milk and eat his Pop-Tarts because he would get all the good snacks because he was Mommy's favorite.
All of them would say that he was very aggravating and he knew how to push their buttons to have them either or blackmail them doing things for him and his way. Each one will be able to tell you what they think about him.
Pa's library was converted into a living space. And in the cabinetry, the built-in cabinetry, were desks. And mine was to the far wall. And we would sit down to do homework. I would be sitting there for hours doing homework. Billy would pull out his file folder, write a few things, scribble, and then leave to go out and play football. I don't know how he did it, but he was clever. Did his so-called homework and passed for Naparima Boys College. Go figure.
School was it wasn't that you didn't like it, it's just that I would break beach and go in the park and play cricket and I had a good friend in primary school. He was bigger than me in size, so we would get in a little squabble and fight and things regular, and he would always fight for me. And there was a caretaker in the Presbyterian church. The church and the school was right next to each other. We used to tease the caretaker because we thought he was weird and crazy, so he used to run me around the school and run us around the church. And that was a game for us, you know. We were supposed to go, they were doing practice exam for common entrance, and we know they would only have practice exam in the morning. And the day we choose to go down in the park and play cricket, they had practice exam in the evening and we miss it. So the next morning was lessons. So me and all the guys who went down in the park, and I was the ringleader, and the teacher beat everybody in the class that morning who went with me.
But Billy was my entertainment as a child. Whether it was being our personal towel-wearing DJ. When I say towel-wearing, he would go play football and come back, do not go in the bathroom, but just walk around for hours with a towel. And he would be a towel wearing on a Friday night when Daddy and Mommy go to church and decide to leave us home. He would be a towel wearing DJ for our catwalk fashion shows with Mommy's shoes and beads and hats that we always twisted her heels, and he would be the DJ. Or we would have our live Friday night personal WWE SmackDown. He would be running us all over the house. We would get into serious fights, he and all the girls, and he would do it. Dawn began to do karate. And I guess I'm probably stealing her story, but it would always end up in a fight. He always thought he was the best kung fu master. So here he comes, aggravating Dawn, and they getting into a fight, and he's singing "Everybody Want Kung Fu Fighting." Not to know it, she flips him, and he ends up head first in Charisma's crib. Being my entertainment, I laughed till the whole floor was wet.
We'd all get the blue soap from Ma during times of hard rainstorms or just rain. As we get in Trinidad, we would stand under the galvanize or the little standpipe that we had at home and just bathe, the shower, and that was fun. If you wanted the best chow, you could get Billy to climb any tree to the highest point, and then we'd make the spiciest, hottest chow ever. That was really cool.
Always finding ourselves in some kind of mischief and occupying ourselves with all kinds of different things. Aunt had fruit trees, so we would climb and we would make plum chow and guava chow and mango chow, and we would also have, maybe we had a little bike. We used to roll along the side of the house, and we used to fall down and have them girls pushing me or me pushing them.
Growing up, Billy was notorious for jumping, climbing, prancing, irritating us kids, and being the spoiled and controlled only prince and brother, king of the world.
The incident of the jumping on the bed with Nicole busting her head open, again, to this day, never got a punishment. And on that part, it was Ma Ramdial who sent Pa downstairs to advocate on his behalf.
It was great growing up together with you, yourself, my brother. We used to pull up the fence so you could crawl under when you were smaller. You come over, and then we'd be cricket, football, on the swings, playing with dinky cars, all that sort of stuff. And then when you got older, you climbed over the fence. And then my dad figured, well, let me just put a gate between the two houses, and then it'll be easy for everybody else.
What is now Mummy's dressing space was once filled with two full-size beds joined together. And yours was attired in Star Wars bed sheets and pillowcase. And believe it or not, we still have that bed sheet and pillowcase. And mine was Mickey Mouse, but these beds were joined together. Every day with due diligence, I would obediently lay snuggled with you, with my thumb in my mouth and the other hand having to stroke your knotted curls.
We are 20 years apart, which makes him the alpha and me the omega. When I came along, Billy was already a very young man, a young married man, because he got married when I was almost 2 years old. So to know Billy, I was not fortunate like the others to experience his childhood, but I was fortunate in a different way to experience him as a young man coming into his own, a young married man. I also remember Billy always hugging, very tight hugs, always hugging, very loving, very affectionate.
One of the things I thoroughly enjoyed about my brother is his love for sports and music. And even then, I would love to watch them play football on the street. And I was so engrossed in sports that I became a Manchester United fan while he was at Tottenham Hotspurs, with par refereeing on a Sunday afternoon when football would come on. When he got older, he would go over to David and Sides to watch football, and I would beg to go and beg to go, and he would not let me go. He goes, "No fool, stay home." And he would jump the fence, and he would leave me behind. But his love for sports made me an avid sports fan, even to this day.
And particularly on a Friday night when I have deliverance service, I would want to go and play football because I didn't want to go to church. So I would go early and come home late, and I would wait till my parents, the car outside by the gate, and go in the bathroom then 9, 10 o'clock in the night to bathe and then go in my bed.
My brother, he loves football. This is something we share and we have in common. God has blessed him with two sons who he shares the passion with. He has also passed on his aggravation to those two sons, because sometimes while the matches would be going on, the phone calls between us will begin, especially when a goal score just for a little banter. When the Spurs go marching in.
So my dad was patient with us, but your dad was good too. Remember the old Datsun 1600? Remember, I don't know how your dad let my brother and yourself put a 45 number on the doors of the car to make it look like a racing car with black electrical tape, That was so funny.
As for love of music, my very first influences of music came while my grandmother, my father's mother, was supposed to be babysitting Billy and myself. And we went into Uncle Neil's room, which was dark and beautiful, with psychedelic stuff and lights, and went through his albums. My Uncle Neil had the best albums ever. And Billy introduced me to Isaac Hayes, Barry White, Earth, Wind and Fire, lots of R&B and lots of blues and jazz, love Coltrane, and of course the one and only Bob Marley.
Billy grew up a good and faithful boy as I remember him. I also remember how he loved to come up the street to listen to me play my reggae music, especially Bob Marley, and he enjoyed watching Dawn and Anna dance to the reggae with me.
My father's last brother, he loved reggae music. And we would spend time at our next grandmother's house. And he was one of the uncles who would always be playing Bob Marley and Peter Tosh and, all these kinds of things. So we grew up around that kind of music. And I always liked the reggae music because I felt there was some kind of attachment there. Even when I started to play music actually, I always would take everything and convert it into reggae when I was playing because I just love the rhythm of the reggae. So that was me. And even when I started playing in church, I would want to take our praise and worship and turn it into a reggae. Now people just do that and it's not a problem. At the time, I don't think it was too acceptable at the time, but that was just me.
Especially Uncle Neil, who would, when we go to stay by my other grandmother, Ma, up the road, he would just play LP after LP, Gregory Isaacs and all the funk and all the Bob Marley. Billy loved the guitar so much that he had his favorite music was George Benson, Andre Crouch, and any other piece of music that had lead guitar in it, he would love that piece of music.
So what happened was, again, with the car, we turn on the car and we turn on the radio and listen to 70s music. Pop, soul, reggae, rock, soft rock, contemporary music of the 70s. That's why Billy today still loves Bob Marley.
His love for Bob Marley wasn't always a bad influence. I believe his love for music and becoming a skilled guitarist, all of that came from his love of Bob.
Many of you will know Pastor Mark, but I didn't know him as Pastor Mark for the first 25 years of his life. I knew him as Billy. And so you could imagine when I heard Billy was pastor, I had to make a big adjustment in my mind because we had several escapades when we were growing up. Just to give you an idea, Billy was the one who would terrorize the street when he got his license, zooming up and down, and you say, boy, Bill, boy, you'll kill somebody one day. But you know what? He survived. He hit 60 now. He was the one who would be taking care of all the other younger kids, running them up and down, crossing the road.
Billy, once Dad taught him the basics of how to drive, would steal the car and go putzing around the town with no license and drive. Much to Dad's frustration, with a lot of yelling going on in the house.
I started drive before I got licensed. And I used to take the chance of taking up my father's car and driving it all the way, please. And I never used to drive slow, because I felt I could be a racing driver and was reckless to some degree. I remember one day taking up my father's car and heading out over Broadway and going on Lady Hills Avenue and spinning around the car at the bottom of the cemetery and going back home and parking it up quiet. And only to find out the next day, I see this borough police van pull up in front of the house. And then the car was seen spinning around in the gravel down the hill in the cemetery. And while it was spinning around, one of those fellas who spray with the spray cans was there, and I didn't see him, and the car hit the spray can and damaged the can. It cost $3,000. So they asked me if I had money to pay for the car. I didn't have. So they said, we had to lock you up, And they put a good scare in me.
Do you remember when you took your dad's car and you crashed it in front of the church when you came back? I think it was a Friday night and you were trying to get back before the service was over. I admit I contributed a bit to the delinquency, When you asked me to do a t-shirt with a picture of Bob Marley smoking a huge joint, I thought nothing of the optics of the pastor's son wearing such a shirt.
One distinct memory was my 7th birthday, when mommy made it so special, and lo and behold, the phone rang. You got in an accident, and daddy bolted out of the door in the wink of an eye. Concerned, worrisome, daddy soon returned with his only berotten entering through the door in that signature burgundy track pants and white stripes on the side. Do you remember that pants? That was your uniform. The out of control knotted curls, the wannabe Bob Marley hairstyle, grinning from ear to ear with this huge white bandage wrapped around your head. Being center of attention, not to mention, I believe you wrote off that blue car, that blue vehicle, but again, you got away with it. I don't think there was much consequence to writing off the car. And if that wasn't enough, months after going back to our daily ritual at sleep time, with me having to stroke your hair, splinters was coming out of your head, Red. And that was months after that whole thing take place.
One night, I wasn't playing music yet, but I was in the church, in and out of the church. And I came to a Friday night service, and I was liming with friends at the time. And when I came to the church, I sat in the back because I could have been smelling of a few beers. So I sat down way in the back of the church. And my mother was preaching a Friday night service. And I remember that during the course of that ministry, that I felt like the whole church was just emptied out, and it was just me she was talking to. And I remember walking up to the altar that night and giving my heart to Christ. So a Friday night service, I may have been about 18 at the time. And at that time, after that, I joined the band in the church and started to play music. And the band had a prayer meeting. That is one thing they used to have. They used to have a prayer meeting. And the band had that prayer meeting that night, and that prayer meeting turned from 1 hour into a half-night prayer meeting. And that is where the Holy Spirit came in. And I was then at that point in time, I think that's where the commitment came, and I was able to settle in terms of salvation and ministry.
We always had a band in church, a local band in church. And whether they're talented or not, we always brought it together. And again, being the pastor's children and coming from a musical heritage, we are expected to serve in church in our capacity, and our capacity was music. So he would be head of the band, many times head of the music department, as they would call it, and a band was formed in the churches that we were in. And the new song really was a rebrand of the church band, a name for the church band, when Daddy started evangelistic crusades under the tent. He took the band and we named ourselves the New Song. And very talented people. Billy was the transport for practices and rehearsals, and very soon we started to sing beyond our church. We went to other church concerts and stuff like that. He was also a big part of the tent ministry. That's why he, just like Daddy, he's at his best when he's doing evangelism. He loves evangelism, and he's an amazing evangelist.
When Sharon started attending the church, it was clear to see that you were smitten early on. Sharon definitely was the good influence you needed to shape you into the person that you would eventually become, the person that you are today. Sharon seemed more interested in ministry than you did. I remember that. And while you did not have time to waste with your father's meetings, she did. So if anyone is wondering how this man who resisted his father's mentoring came to be a chip of the old block, well, now you know.
She came into the church at 16, and I was still kind of not stabilized at the church as yet. I would talk to her and we would have interaction at the time. So at that time, you know, it would be a little flirty, and then after a while, the relationship became a little more serious. I would drop her home after service. I would start a visit on a Sunday after church and all that. And going into 1920, I think the relationship started to gel, and it became serious, and that is where early marriage took place.
1978 at the Penal Open Bible Church. I was 15 years old. I entered the church, and he was there at the church, the pastor's son. My first encounter, and I didn't really chat with him until probably a few months after or so. I went to a Thanksgiving and heard Pastor Mark's father preaching in a Thanksgiving. And before that, I used to go to crusades in and around the village. So I was invited to this Thanksgiving, a family Thanksgiving. And I heard him minister the word of God. And he was a very charismatic preacher. That's Reverend Ballosingh, deceased. So my parents allowed me to go to this next Sunday service.
If I could break through this thing and I could win this girl, then that's a big accomplishment and achievement for me, because she was into prayer. She was into God, you know. And I felt, there's, you know, a little challenge here, you know. And I pursued, and I think she, to some degree, felt a certain way, and we came together, and we would spend hours on the phone saying nothing, and that, I mean, I say that is love, because, I mean, you know, and we didn't have cell phones at the time. I would be on the phone in my grandmother's house, she had the phone down Penal in her mother's house, and you know, we on the phone and nobody talking, we just listening to one another breathe.
When Billy met Sharon, or any other girl, I was always jealous. Because he was my playmate, he was my buddy. So I did give Sharon a hard time, or whoever would have been his wife. And I called her names, I laughed at her, I made jokes about her. And now she withstood that, and she has become my sister. Not sister-in-law, she has become my sister, because I think she's more of a Ballosingh. She has a Ballosingh temperament, that Ballosingh sense of humor, and we're good buddies now.
I also remember just always, anywhere, foot to foot with them. I have memories of him and Sharon next door at my aunt's. Sharon would always go crazy for mango season, and they would call Sharon Mango Police. And she wanted this mango, she needed this mango, and so he started to pelt the mangoes. And I remember in trying to do something nice for his wife, he ended up hitting Sharon in the head, which is not funny. And Sharon's head burst open, which was horrible.
Billy and Sharon came to the US. Billy worked very hard, came to live with me, and she had Marcus just before, and it was our only brother having a son, which was a beautiful legacy, because he was a baby after all these years, and he was so precious. And he was ours to love after so long. And a brother having a son, and it was the only other male carrying on the name Ballosingh, was so precious. I'm not going to cry. And here was Marcus.
My relationship with Daddy has been a great one. Bad at first, great now. We didn't see eye to eye originally because I do everything the opposite to him. Actually, I think I remind him every day of his father. And we have arguments daily about that.
In the Penal Church, Pastor Mark and I, your father and I, used to do the evening service. we used to be at the Sunday morning service. We had to be there 8 o'clock. We were by the cinema, and then we had to be in service. Then I was teaching baptism class, and he was in charge of the worship team. And then after in the evening at 4 o'clock, or 3 or 4 o'clock, we had to conduct, as junior ministers, our responsibility was to build the congregation for the evening time. So we had the task of about 3 years just having the service to build the congregation. And then there was an opening at the Rosilac branch, and they had an issue there. So then he decided that he will go into Rosilac. So right after the evening service, 4 o'clock, after the 8 o'clock service, and after every service in the Penal Church, the Reverend deceased will have a meeting right after church. You're not even eating lunch. Sometimes you're reaching home 1 o'clock as a young couple with a baby. I will go to our mother's house. She'll prepare lunch. We'll take a rest. Come back for 4 o'clock because it's in Penal. That's where originally I am from. Then we will go down to Rosilac for 7 o'clock in the evening. So we had 3 services at 28, 29 years old, many years ago.
And then we had a church at Rosilac. It was our outreach, and the pastor left the church. And my father said to me, he sent both of us down to Rosilac to see if we can keep the church going.
I also remember them starting their ministry in Rosilac as a young couple in the old man Sukram's yard under a little tent. And I also remember being there with them, going with them. And eventually they continued their ministry and they grew, and I remember being with them when they first ventured into La Brea.
When we went to Rosilac, we were at Rosilac on our old tent, and the tent started to fall apart. So I realized we had to look for a place for these people. And we would look and look and look until we found an old cinema in La Brea that wasn't being used. And we found the owner of the cinema. We kind of renovated to the best of our ability. And we moved into the cinema, and we moved out of the tent from Rosilac. And the Holy Spirit said to me at that point, this church would be the gateway to the Southland and would bring revival to the Southland. We faced a lot of stuff in La Brea. We went to court. We were taken before the court in La Brea for disturbing the peace while in the cinema. People would pelt down the cinema while we were having services. We went through a lot of things in La Brea. People would actually threaten us. We would have the police became so familiar with us at the church. From the time we called the police station, they would know it's the church, and they would attend to us immediately. And so we have a lot of history there. And we had Cheryl being born and growing up in the cinema time, in the transition. The people who came and got saved in La Brea were very loyal people and loving people, and they came to know us and they stood with us at that time. And I feel very proud of that church because today, maybe second and third generation children coming out of people who were saved initially have very educated children there who have the degrees and all those kinds of things. And so I feel very proud of the people there, and they have been, while we helped them quite a bit in that area, they supported us quite a bit out of whatever they could have supported us with, and we are very grateful of the relationship we have with the people in La Brea.
Oh, they love him dearly. They love Pastor Mark. They know him. He was always in the area because he used to work in the oil field also. So that's part of where he used to work. So sometimes you can't find him. He's visiting people. He's down there all day. He's popping in, having lunch at somebody's. They loved him. Up to even today, he's not there. But when he's coming to town, everybody is Pastor Mark, Pastor Mark. A genuine love. And the cinema, if you all know the cinema, it used to be packed with people. And he will pray from what hour of the night till sometime we reaching home 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Reverend Mark usually called me Cindy, and I grew up as a young person under the ministry of Reverend Mark. Let me see, memorable moments. One of my memorable moments is the times that we would have going to crusades. From Laver to Cedros, we will go to crusades. 3 nights crusades with Reverend Mark, and some of the things that I would have learned under the ministry of Reverend Mark remains today with me even now as I am in ministry, still at Southern Revival Center.
After many years under his arms and learning a lot from him, I am so thankful. As an educator, I was drawn to his style of preaching, where the use of the analogies to explain and to carry across his messages, as well as a wealth of knowledge in the Word of God.
Well, here now, it wasn't only preaching the man used to do, he used to work too. So we want to go now to hear some of his work colleagues and hear what they say about him.
When I now get married, I wasn't working, and then she started to work at the City Hall for a short while. And then we had a little store. We used to sell stationery and small things, and we started to work there. And then a little later on, we put out a stall outside the store, and we used to sell vegetables. We used to go in the market and make wholesale, me and her, and we used to sell apple and grapes at Christmas. And then by and large, I was able to buy a little van. And that van, I bought it from George F. Huggins, which today is Courts. And when I bought the van from George F. Huggins, we had a friend there who had known Mom, and she called me and said, we are selling this van, auctioning it. If you could get the money to buy this van, you should buy it. And we did buy the van, and we was able to get jobs from George F. Huggins to transport goods for them. And that started to pick up for us. And then I started to do little jobs with the van, transporting wise. And that took me into other things in terms of work-wise. So after doing jobs with the van, I used to do private jobs for Neela Masi also, and anybody want transport. And my brother-in-law, which is my wife's last brother, he was working at Neela Masi, and he would call me occasionally to do jobs for them. And then the jobs started to become more frequent. And as I started to do those jobs, they ended up with a vacancy there. And he asked me if I wanted to come in and apply for the vacancy, which I did. And in doing that, I started to work for Neela Masi Engineering, which later would be Neela Masi Energy.
Yeah, and I worked for about 25 years in Masi, Neela Masi, Trackmark. There had some good times and not so good times, but it was great, man. He was a hard worker.
He had a passion and enthusiasm for his work. He did his work with intention. The company had a motto in those days, experts in the field, and Mark surely embodied that philosophy. He approached his work with passion and enthusiasm. In fact, so enthusiastic was his approach.
He was known as the rich man.
That he developed a reputation of being one of the fastest drivers in the oil field in those days.
He was the guy who made the company run. He was known as the Rev. The British call him Rev.
And they would call in the mornings and a different number, and they would say, 77 coming to the tea. And I would hear this radio going off, and Daddy would be in his bed.
And when I started there, through Neela Masi, they gave training. And I was able to train in a number of areas. San Fernando Technical Institute, I would do a course there, and then from there, do other courses that would help me. And their status quo as Neela Masi Energy would mainly be oil field. So oil field based, and I would start to work with them in the oil field. And from there, I was able to learn a lot, do more courses, and kind of entrench myself in oil field work, and that became a permanent job after a couple of years, and I stayed with them for a number of years. And all through the years I stayed there was always training after training in different areas to elevate you.
So I am Sherelle. I am the one and only daughter, and what can I say? We have so many moments and just drama. Our house is just filled with drama because of me and my dad. I remember a lot of our days were spent in church. I remember every Sunday being like hustling and getting to church on time. Every Sunday, stopping for doubles. Yeah, I love doubles because every Sunday it was my breakfast for 26 years.
When I was in the hospital, the doctors had said to me, this child is stunted growth. Baby's in there, the baby, the size that they're looking is not the amount of months you have. And the last day of when she was born, the doctor says to me, Mrs. Ballosingh, if you don't make a decision about taking this surgery now, your child could die. So at that point in our lives, I am in the hospital. Pastor Mark is still running the church there in the cinema. And Cheryl was born. That was a really, really challenging, another challenging time in our lives. 2 pounds, 2 ounces. And, I used to think, Lord, well, we're doing your work. Look at it, we went to court. Another day, a man running the church with a cutlass to chop him, because they didn't want him to preach the gospel because his child was coming to church. So we had encounters like that, and as 2 young people, we're like 28, 29, how do you deal with things of this nature? And I just have to say, is God kept us, because it's God who sent us, and God continues to keep us, and those memories is, you will never forget. So Cheryl was born, thank God she was alive. And she, we had to treat her like a little egg.
We grew up in Southern Revival Center, La Brea, where we still are today. And I have served in that church for my entire life. That is our second home, really. So let's see, I remember Dad getting up on a Sunday morning, putting on this loud gospel music and clapping and being really annoying to wake us up on a Sunday. And then going to church and spending all day in church. And then my parents would counsel people for hours after service. And then we would get home at like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. And then finally have lunch. Dad was always on the go. He was never around for my birthday. He would, and it's not because he didn't want to, it's just because he was always working or preaching or working. And when he wasn't doing those things, he was actually sleeping, which he does that a lot now. So,
Darian was born in 1998. When Darian was home as maybe 2-3 years, Darian used to be beating everything in the house. He used to have 2 sticks, and everything he hear, every piece of music Darian hear, he just hitting everything in the house. So I gave him my bowls from the cupboard, my silver bowls. I turned them over. I gave him 2 pencils. I put on the TV, and I just let him play. And that was his little instrument to play at 3 years old. And then when we saw he was doing better, we bought a junior drum set for him. So at 5 years old, 3 years old, 4 years old, but he didn't play at 3, but at 5 years old in the church, he was natural at the music. He was playing the drums. Nobody taught him. When we were home in our house in Pinal, he used to be in the gallery, and the drum set was a small drum set. And people passing, but they hearing the drumming, and they don't know who is that drumming. And then they realized a small man was drumming. They couldn't even see him. He was small, 4 years, and he was drumming since then.
I am Darian, the last son, the baby son, well, I can't say the prince because that already taken the other one, but I am the drummer, the baby drummer, the bigger drummer now, I don't know. I came 1998 in the birth of, they could call me the born of Labrador, the son of Labrador, I don't know, the prince of Labrador.
I think many things was birthed in that ministry in particular. It was the most challenging, but yet it was the most blessed. It made us into who we are today. And to those people, it was difficult. But it made us, it made him, you know, not supposed to cry. At some point in the ministry, I felt we were left alone because we belonged to a body. We were two young people, but we were faithful. Sometimes we didn't have money to go to church. We had a very old vehicle, but we were faithful for many years. And when we went Labre, we had the best programs. We gave up our best in that community. In 2000, outpouring was a Father's Day gift to Pastor Mark. The people who were coming to the church, simple grassroots people. And out of their love for Reverend Mark and his work in the area, we raised that money to give him that Father's Day gift, the outpouring. And there were a team of people assigned to that ministry who worked very faithfully to help Pastor Mark put his name on the map and to reach this land and even abroad on the radio. A number of years, they worked day and night. They covered all over Trinidad with the outpouring and unmasking the devil. Mm-hmm.
With Reverend Mark on the outpouring and unmasking the devil seminars. And they were indeed memorable because it didn't matter what the obstacles were. Reverend Mark did not give up in his mission, traveling the length and breadth of his nation, determined to reveal the guise of the enemy. Reverend Mark is without a doubt a great leader. His drive and commitment to the things of God must be mentioned. He continues to train, lead, and mentor even to this point in time.
Brother Robert Huggins, Brother Wayne Kispa, and myself, we would launch this program on Love 94.1. That was the station at the time. And we would launch the program on that station, and then it would move to 98.1 thereafter. And out of that program, we would deal with a lot of cases with people who would call in for prayer, suffering from demonic oppression and demonic possession, and they would try to find us and come to the church and come for prayer. And so we started to document. I started to research. I started to document certain things. I started to, my mother would have a wealth of resources, and we started to compile it in terms of making a deliverance seminar. It started off as a 3-day seminar, and it became a trademark seminar throughout the country because there was no one at that point teaching on deliverance or giving that kind of information concerning deliverance. And so that has become a trademark of the ministry up till today, and we were able to compile it and put it in manual form so people could have an understanding of what deliverance is all about in a practical sense.
I was known as the voice of the outpouring. They called me the voice maybe because of the voice that I had. I was to introduce Pastor Mark, to come on to preach, and also to end the program every Tuesday evening. Besides being the voice of the outpouring, I will be the one to put the program together, to have everything in place and have it ready to send out to the radio station for broadcasting on the following Tuesday. It was sometimes a tedious ask, but I always ensured, because that was my ministry, that I felt good to be able to do something on behalf of our church, to our country, and by extension to wherever it would have been able to reach, to minister the word of God.
Not for the life of him, he expected his father to pass away. And I think that I saw him grieve. I saw him pull away. I saw him react in a lot of ways that, that I never saw in him. And where the ministry is concerned, Reverend Ballosingh, was mentoring us as young ministers. And I believe this is what he was mentoring us for, that one day when he goes, that he always says that when he dies or when he's not around, that the mission will always have continuity. He always said to Mark, never build a ministry around yourself, because the day you die, your ministry will die. But him losing his father was a big one. It impacted him a really, really big way. But however, he was involved in the ministry, so he had to keep focused. He had to continue doing what God called him to do. Yeah.
That impacted everybody. You would know that. It was not what we expected. We knew he was ill. And the fact that he died, not in Trinidad, away, it was difficult. It was very, very difficult. And even for your dad, being the eldest son, like everything else, truth be told, the family became divided a bit. Everybody had their own take. Some withdrew, some talked out, some, it was not an easy time.
So in 2005, I was working at Massey Energy, and while working there, we were in the process of building our house that year. And just, I think, maybe as we were about to pay the very first or second mortgage payment, our unit was retrenched from Neil & Massey, and Neil & Massey started to downsize at that point in time. And it was really a test of faith at that point in time. The roof of the house wasn't on, the windows and the doors wasn't on, and we had to trust God that we would get the release from the mortgage company to get that money to complete the house. And we continued to be faithful, we continued to give, even though I wasn't working, and God brought us through that season, and we learned, and our faith was strengthened even more.
And then my health was affected. That is when he came and spent 2 years in Central to hold the church.
And I remember right after I got baptized, you wanted Dawson and I to be part of your ministry and to accompany you whenever you had to minister at different churches. And I was shocked when you asked for me. I had just gotten saved, I had just gotten baptized, didn't know anything about the Lord, yet you wanted me with you. And I guess you saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. Because of you, I saw things I've never seen before. I have experienced things I've never experienced before. And I've been to places I've never been before. I want to say thank you so much, Pastor Mark, for every opportunity that I got to spend with you and under your ministry. And because of you, I believe my ministry started. What I didn't know then, I truly know now.
Working with Pastor Mark at El Shaddai Temple during his tenure at our church was a noteworthy experience. He is an exemplary leader and worked consistently at building participation and involvement of other church leaders and members in the ministry.
I first encountered this small, mighty giant of a man with a big heart and a big voice in the 70s. But I really got acquainted with him later on in the 80s when he began to become a great preacher throughout the country, up the islands, even in the United States and other places. And it was difficult then to schedule him for a service. So I called my wife, the late Patricia, his good friend, who got onto him, and she didn't request him to come. She summons him, and he turned up. And since that, he's been with us so many times, sharing the gospel, preaching, teaching, and really being a great inspiration to us.
I first met him in the early 19s on the island of St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, where he came to speak at a revival service. And I must say the power of God transformed lives. People were delivered and set free. Demons were cast out. And he is really a preaching machine. He doesn't ever stop. And he came back several times to preach at our church that I was attending. And also 2 years ago, he came to minister at my women's conference that I held in Fort Pierce, Florida. And the message he preached was Forged in the Fire. That message really transformed my life.
At 18 years old, I had my own plan. I just wanted to write A-levels and leave the house. And God had it in a different way for us. At 18 years old, on my birthday, I got sick and I was hospitalized for 4 months. And then and there, I remember coming out of the ER, and my dad, I remember him just broken. His eyes were just bloodshot red, and he sat, and I saw tears streaming down his face. And I never knew my parent, I never saw his emotions like that before. You know, before I just knew him as preaching dad, on the go dad, rigid dad. And at that point in time, when I saw my father like that, I knew that my father truly loved me. My parents were there day and night with me for 4 months, hospitalized. I remember he would come after work. He would have to help me get dressed and feed me because I was hooked up to so many things. And I think then that's when our father-daughter relationship really, really, truly started. You know, we really started to bond at that point in time.
Well, when I look back in the past, in the early days, I was always busy and very few times I would be around, sometimes not around for birthdays and graduations and all those things. If I wasn't preaching, I would be working. And so today, as my children grew older, I think we are more cohesive, we've grown together. I think today I enjoy my children more than even when they were younger because I think we have a better rapport. I think my sons and I enjoy the football together. I think my daughter and I, we have a good relationship now more than before. We've been through many battles and many valleys, and I think today, through maturity, we have a stronger relationship as a family unit.
Well, we don't have grandchildren of our own, but we can see that, fatherly love, that he will play with them, he will sit on his recliner, he will hug, he will have, play games with them, he will laugh, he will be relaxed, he will have evenings where he will sit down and watch TV, he will just, be more relaxed with I can't say grandchildren because some of his nephews, nieces, my nephews and my nieces, he take time to relax and laugh and enjoy, play a little table tennis, be in the yard a little more, so take a little walk sometimes, yeah.
We used to go plenty drives. We used to go from Guayari for no reason, just to show us Guayari, Manzanilla, Mayaro to Tuku, to Maracas, going through all these small little towns, Point Cumana, everywhere, just to show us which direction it is, where it is, the Northern Range, this, that, San Fernando Hill. There's always, if there's one thing I learned a lot of geographical stuff from him, because we've been all over the country. Even the geographical in church too, we used to go eat caucus with him for crusade. You reach 1 o'clock after that crusade because that's how far it is, but it was worth it because of the fish broth. But at least you're going to see everywhere. You're going to do many things. Now I think we grew a lot closer as I grew older. I think normally it's me, him, and mommy at home alone. So when there's 3 of us home, It's often a conversation every day. You know, in the morning, lunchtime, washing down the drain every Saturday morning, which entails him holding a hose above my head while I down inside the drain. That is an activity. You could fast forward to now where every morning I come outside. Well, due to the pandemic, I'm home, so every morning I come outside, he has something new political to ask me because I study political science. So every day he asks me some new advice, which he just go on a Sunday and preach and make it seem like it's his own. He always plagiarizing my work. We also have a friendly rivalry in football. Sometimes he helps me in the kitchen to cut up stuff, not cook. I cook. In the City Sanctuary ministry, I was probably about 8 or 9 years, I guess. I had a small little red drum set I used to play on in the building in St. James Street, right under the Bible school. Really and truly, it used to be me, him, the 4 Golden Girls, which was Auntie General, Sister Sam, Sister Merle, and Sister Marvo. We also had a few other people, like Brother Francis, Brother Lino. It used to be just us on a Wednesday night, every Wednesday. Some Thursdays I used to go to school and get in trouble because I didn't do my homework the night before. Not that I had a moment to do it, because I was busy playing music. I was involved in the many crusades of City Sanctuary, in the rebirth of it. One funny story is we had a crusade in Bodnav, not far from where Auntie Nicole lives. And he make me pack up the drum set in the back of the van, in the Tucson. I think it's the Tucson, I can't remember. And we pack up all of that and we was excited and yeah, we didn't play. And when he reached now and he pack out everything, he didn't bring the drumsticks for me to play from in church. But he had everything else. So I had to sit down and watch the drums and watch people fall along and had nothing to do. Daddy and I have conversations daily. Although I'm not around, I leave very early and come back late, he finds the time to have some sort of church conversation with me daily. And then somehow throughout the day, I could be in a meeting, I could be where, he just calls me for no reason. And every day he brings some new church problem or some new thing. He finds the time to sit down with me and he lowers his voice and he say, "Boy, I want to talk to you about a few things." And I know that is the voice of a man about to waste my time for 30 minutes. Let anything go wrong, ever, with Granny, with whom else, my number is on speed dial and he volunteers me for everything. Something going on with Jamie the other day, he called my phone. Granny want to go to, I in the middle of a meeting, he calls 1,000,000 times and he volunteers me. I was talking with somebody in the church the other day and he was like, "Well, your father said you would have come and do this." I wasn't even wrong. So please stop volunteering me to do things.
So after leaving Neil and Marcy, I would be preaching and working all throughout because my father preached and worked. And I felt that was the example he said. So I would preach, I would work. My father would do crusade until 12, 1, 2 in the morning, praying for people and then go to work the next day. And that's what I saw. So I patterned myself in that way that it was good for me that I had a job, I could work and I could also preach. And so after leaving Neil and Marcy and getting retrenched, I worked in some smaller companies for a short period of time. And then the opportunity came that I was given to apply for a job at Repsol, which was a Spanish company.
I met Reverend Mark in 2007, May 2007, at the job in the oilfield industry. Eventually, we went on into ministry. We started taking fellowship there, and we went on into ministry. And I really give God praise and thanks because working with him, it is not always easy. Reverend Mark has us only go. And there's no question about it, but I understand why he does it, and I share in his vision, and I am really blessed and honored to have known Reverend Mark Ballosingh and to fellowship at the City Sanctuary.
My journey started with Reverend Mark in 2007 when we were invited to the City Sanctuary. During the course of fellowshipping with Reverend Mark, I grew to know Reverend Mark personally on a personal level, also knowing him as a pastor operating as the pastor of City Sanctuary. What I can say throughout the years, my journey with Reverend Mark was a good journey in terms of seeing spiritual growth in my life and even in the kingdom. And truly, because sitting under the leadership of Reverend Mark and sitting down under the ministry of Reverend Mark, truly today I can be effective because of his departing, his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding through the Holy Spirit, through me.
12 years, I think, at the city. And we've down at Faizabad has been established for, I think, maybe 5 years or 6 years now at this point in time. Gasparilla started under me, and we did, Gasparilla started off as a crusade. And after that crusade, we were able to establish a small congregation in Gasparilla. San Fernando had a core group of people, so we were able to build on that, and we were able to expand on that. And Faizabad started as a Sunday school, and out of that we did crusades. Every year we would do crusades outdoor, and today Faizabad is also a thriving established church.
I have known Pastor for a little over 3 years. My first impression of him was that he is a mighty man of God, a great leader and teacher. He is a powerhouse, and like the Energizer Bunny, he keeps on going. It is an honor for me to interact daily and to be a blessing to Pastor and his family in whatever way that I can. So much so that recently Marcus said to me, Sister Solomon, I think we need to give you keys for the gate.
Hey, Bill, where you going? Happy birthday, boy. Happy 60th birthday. Whew, I'm tired. Christmas Jason made it beat me. 60 is a milestone, boy, a milestone. I hope I reach that age. You know? I want to thank you from 4, always calling and checking up on me. Making sure I have stuff to eat. Always calling and checking up on me when I'm sick. You know, just want to say thanks for that.
Oh, there you are. Cast your mind back, if you would. It was a summer day, a balmy day. After this particular beach day, we went to a vendor, and it was the first time I had had bacon truck, thanks to you. Weird having a food that would normally eat me if it had the chance. And there was being run over by a tank at the Naval Museum and crawling through airplane guts. But, you know, I think the family barbecue and playing Monopoly and watching the Indiana Jones movies would probably be one of my favorite memories. Thank you. And happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Uncle Billy. I hope you have a great day.
Happy birthday, Uncle Bill.
Happy birthday. Happy 60th birthday. To a job well done.
A happy, blessed 60th birthday, Reverend Mark. God's continual blessing.
So, Bill, happy birthday.
So happy 60th birthday, my friend.
Happy birthday. Best wishes.
May the Lord continue to anoint you and never give up. You know, stay strong.
Happy birthday.
All the best. Lots more years to come. Keep preaching. Keep doing what you're doing and building the kingdom. Take care. God bless.
So from one Naps boy to an extremely old Naps boy, happy 60th birthday.
Happy birthday. And if you want to drink tea, drink Long Island iced tea. Oh. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Bill. We love you.
From the Chantasing family to you, my brother, I love you and happy birthday.
All the best to you.
Happy 60th birthday.
I love you, the love of the Lord. God bless you, and I pray that you enjoy your day.
Congratulate Mark for God's blessing for the future.
So, Bill, I want to tell you, boy, all the best. Have a happy birthday.
I would like to extend best wishes, thanks and blessings of health, wealth, and long life to Reverend Mark Ballosingh.
God bless you, coming all the way from Florida.
Love you and happy 60th birthday.
Dad, my old man, Buckman, I just want to say happy 60th birthday to you. I hope you live to see many more, and I hope I am there with you till the end. I love you very much.
Happy birthday, Dad. I truly love you. I enjoy my time with you, and I wish that you live to see many more.
Well, I didn't think I'd be sitting here at age 82 and witnessing Bill, my first child, reaching the age of 60, I really could not. I feel privileged as a matriarch to be able to say to him a very, very happy birthday. You have really walked the mile. You have proven yourself as, from a child, a servant of God, a pioneer, an evangelist, now a father yourself. I want to congratulate you and wish you, should the Lord tarry, many more birthdays. Good health, strength, stronger discernment, and keeping that passion for souls alive. God bless you, Bill.
To Mark, I just want to say happy birthday. I love you. I'm grateful to God that you're alive, that through all the hardship and journeys in life, that you can be alive to celebrate 60th birthday with your family, with your wife, your children, your mother, your siblings, all of your families, and even the people of God. I pray that God bless you and give you 60 more to continue what God has called you to do. I love you. I'll always love you.